Let's see. What's up, Ralphie?
Hey,
Hi, bro. I was on the struggle bus.
what block was the bus at?
Girl, the bus was bad. I was all the way out doing stuff I wasn't supposed to be doing. Like out in DC, and just made it back like a few minutes ago.
From the house.
So I'm waiting for my let me request Mr. Golden. How are you, Miss okay, so you know I'm gonna be going back and forth like.
And that's fine. I was not gonna try to police you on this. tell me something I can answer to. That's where I'm at. Like
Akani. Can I do Akani?
Do that.
Okay. Look, like I was like, can I do Akani? Because I don't know. Hello, Mr. Golden. How are you?
I'm pretty good. How you guys doing?
Oh,
Good.
we're doing fine.
That's
Yeah,
good.
I was telling her I was on a struggle bus, but I think we're gonna make it.
Oh, it's cool. It happens sometimes.
All right. So hello, people just filing in. Hello, Dre. How are you? I see Teresa's on here also, Akani. So so we just letting folks file in. Well, I want to first of all thank you both for being on the Teacher Talk Show. Once again, Miss Akani. She was on here for my second show I think I ever had. And she's a career switcher too, Mr. Golden. So
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
And we, Mr. Akani, we have a newbie. We have Mr. Golden. I've heard so many great things about you. So I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself to everyone.
All right, so I'm Mr. Golden. I am an educator, 10-year educator with experience in teaching 5th grade through Algebra 1 and geometry. All grades through 5th grade all the way to Algebra 1 and geometry. We've been doing a lot of work with the standards, with the state. So we're still doing some great work with that, doing some great work with the frameworks. Those are just tasks that are aligned with the new standards that are coming out in fall 23. Been working on some podcast stuff, and working with Dr. Childs, working with a lot of other people, man, just having a great time being an educator, still teaching kids right now. So the struggle is real on that end. So yeah, just enjoying my time.
All right. And Mrs. Akani, can you please intro yourself?
So my name is Mrs. Akani, and I teach 9 through 12 career and technical education standards in the field of criminal justice. I am a career teacher. I worked in law enforcement for about 5 years and then decided, yeah, I'm good. Let me go ahead and just and so somehow I put in somebody's classroom. Here I am.
There we go.
Which is a great thing. And
yeah. I'm in year 3, you know, and it's been worse. I've been shot at, so every day is a blessing.
Well, not in the classroom, Mr. Golden.
Okay. There we go. Not the classroom.
He was like, "What's going on at your school?"
Yeah, not in the classroom, but I just want to thank you both for coming on the show and just having this conversation, because, you know, I've been pondering, right? And before I get on that, though, I'm all over the place. I'm Miss Lewis, for all those who don't know me. I go by Miss C. Lewis or Cat Lewis, whichever one they want to call me. I've been teaching for 18 years now, and I've been a special educator for majority of that time. Math, Algebra 1, integrated math, whatever the school districts had appropriate for me to teach in the self-contained sessions, classrooms. And I also was a co-teacher for a very long time in math, Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, and some geometry. I haven't really touched base with geometry too much. But I also have a math tutoring company. I've been having that for 11 years now. And it's been quite great because of COVID, right? Parents really want to make sure that their kids have those math skills because math is very important and it's not like reading, right? It's not like picking up a book. Sometimes math is just not self-taught. But now I have escaped the math plantation and I am an entrepreneurship adjunct and educator. So business is, I have an MBA, so it's great for me to, you know, work in that area too, which I love, but still teaching and pedagogical approaches and best practices go across the spectrum when we talk about any type of area in which, hey, Mr. Bailey, any type of area in which we join, right? Or we start teaching in. So I was a department chair, Mr. Golden, for a while, right?
Okay.
Well, 1 year.
Okay.
One and done. Never do it again.
Oh, why not?
Managing adults was a challenge for me.
Yes. It's more challenging than working with kids.
Oh, yeah. You know, the kids will listen to you.
Yes.
But, you know, adults that's been teaching longer or shorter than you, they don't want to listen. And
tell me about it, man.
People are fixated in, and, you know, I want to have this space because we're here to talk, right? This is not, you know, a lot of adults, even teachers, you know, they fixated in ways of doing things, whether it's old school, new school, or their own way. And it was very difficult for me to manage adults and have to manage kids too. So it was very overwhelming. And without the admin support, you're not going to achieve very much.
That's it. That's it.
So I didn't have the admin support. And it just wasn't, you know, for me. I decided I don't want to ever get into a leadership role outside of my classroom.
I feel it.
Let me stay with my kids and let's go from there. Hello, Dr. Childs. He's here too. All right. So when I was a department chair, you guys, I would go into classrooms and I would observe, right? I think that is the best professional development that you can get as a teacher. One of the best is watching and doing gallery walks. We used to do this thing called gallery walks. We go from classroom to classroom. And if these were all different content areas. And the things that I used to see, I used to be appalled, right? Because I was like, putting on a Kahoot is not teaching, right? I mean,
it's a tool, right? But it's
not. A tool, but it's
It's a tool, but it's not.
That can't be it.
You can't, you know, be eating at your desk while the kids
that is horrible.
You know, on their phones, they're talking, they're playing, and they're out of order or sitting in a hallway. It was just a lot that I used to see and I still see as a teacher, you know.
But, you know, when you think about it, you know, having those conversations with teachers in our profession, this is one of the few professions where you are sitting in a classroom by yourself without having anyone else to look at. So like you said, those gallery walks, I remember we used to have walks where we would go to another teacher's classroom during our planning period. We would, you know, it would be called a admire and acquire, right? And you would get so many other different things from other teachers because you see what they're doing in practice. But some of the things, you know, when you challenge another teacher about, say, hey, you know, I wonder if we could do this differently, a lot of times it challenges their own self-efficacy, and you start getting the dose with the horns and they're just like, well, I know what I'm doing and blah, blah, blah. So I feel you. I completely get you.
Yeah, it was okay, but then it was very difficult. So
yeah,
I was reading an article, you guys, by the Department of Education, and it was the Secretary of Education talking about the teachers. We don't need desks anymore, right? Mm-hmm. The whole idea of thinking about, yes, you might need a desk to sit down or, you know, put your stuff up, but let's think about the context of teaching. Like when you are in the whole art of teaching, right? Why is your desk even a prompt or a part of your approach? Because you're on your feet, well, supposedly. I know I am, right? I'm
Yeah.
circulating, right? I'm on my feet. I'm greeting my students when they come in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
You are going from student to student. You're constantly, like, you're tracking, you are looking around, you are talking, you're engaging. So why do we need our desks? So he wanted us to look at, well, teachers to look at it from a standpoint of, don't think about why you would need a desk. You want to think about, like, why is your desk that important, and is your lessons as effective when you're sitting down versus on your feet?
Yeah, it's a it's it's a multifaceted problem, right? So I've seen teachers be effective, more effective when they're not focused on a teacher-centered classroom, if that makes sense, right? So you can think about the desk as a teacher-centered classroom, because I know I remember you saying, you know, it doesn't mean that you can't sit at your desk, but the thing is you can't have a completely teacher-centered classroom when you should be the facilitator. It should be a student-centered classroom. So for the longest time, my desk was to the side. It was where I put all my lunch stuff, and you know, I never sat at my desk. But I also went to a teacher's classroom where they did sit at the desk, but it was what they were doing. It was them modeling with the manipulatives. It was, this is the beginning of the class period. I'm going to model this for you on the screen. And then I'm up, I'm walking around, I'm circulating. I want to hear those conversations. I want to see what you're doing. I want to see what kind of conversations you're having with your partners. So those are some of the things that I think of when we think about teachers sitting down and, you know, the entire class period. Yeah, I mean, you're sitting down. I mean, what does that give off to the student? That, oh, okay, this is a relaxed, I don't need to challenge myself in this environment.
Well, I like
you
that.
know. So yes, I completely agree.
Yeah, and I like the fact what you said, what are you giving the students? And
Right.
I know that in my times of teaching, I always think of it like, if this was my daughter, right? I have two daughters,
Mm-hmm.
right? How would I want my daughter to be taught? And I think a lot of times I use that as a general focus, but at the same time, I try to make sure that I'm very engaged so that my students don't get comfortable enough to go to sleep.
Yes.
Don't get comfortable enough to break out their phone and just on their phone and not paying attention. I know kids will be kids, but sleeping is not an issue that I have in my classroom.
Okay.
And I will say that I think a lot of kids are excited about learning. They just have to be in the right classroom.
Right.
So I want to pivot to Miss 𝙬𝙤𝙪𝙡 because she teaches criminal justice, Mr. Golden. And I know we're like math teachers at heart, but what I want to talk about though is I want to talk about how her approach is, right? Everything is project based.
Right.
Very hands-on. I can walk in her class when I'm on my planning and the kid is in handcuffs. Like, I would like, you know what I mean?
There we go. Okay.
Yeah. So, Miss 𝙬𝙤𝙪𝙡, talk about how movement in your classroom, like how that drives instruction for you.
You know what? For me, it's like bottom line up front. If they're not moving, they're not learning in the classroom. It's almost impossible to walk through the steps of how to use a certain manipulative or a piece of equipment or, you know, conduct a certain procedure without them actually doing it themselves.
Right.
That ability to, like, the transfer does not happen in that task when you just have them sitting there and kind of just watch. Like, the difference is, I'm a professional. I've gotten this extensive training. In order to give them that same access to some degree, I have to ensure that they can do that. But it also becomes like, you know, especially for my subject matter, it becomes a matter of like, if this happens in the street, because I have that approach to a lot of material. Like, I never wish on my students to ever handcuffs or be in, or have to manipulate, firearms. But in the event that these things, whether it's professional or personal, do you know what you're doing and what to do if you're not doing it
Right.
yourself is not going to give you the same level of learning. I also want to throw this out here, just because I don't know if y'all had this issue when we were all kind of locked up in the house, but they were talking about self-care, take care of yourself. And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to happen. One thing I did start to know during virtual learning, and when Miss Lewis brought this up, it really got me, is like part of self-care, even as an educator, is the little things that you can do for yourself. And so it does benefit for me to be out, maintain proximity, give them the active hands-on things. But from a very personal and it might be a very personal perspective, get more steps in every day. My blood sugar's lower, my blood pressure's lower. Maintain health, weight. There's the little things that come being on your feet, that are good for you. Those are they're inadvertent, or subconscious. That's a better word. They're subconscious self-care actions that you can take for yourself. You're not getting stuck in that monotony. And I think that part of what wears us down mentally can be that I'm sitting here for so long. I'm doing this for so long. Let's get up, let's move. Just something as simple as like, even with my manipulatives, getting my kids outside.
Yeah.
In sunlight. I know I teach high schoolers, and so they act like they're school sometimes. But the second I tell them, look, it's 65 degrees, we're going out to the patio. And
right.
This room. She's seen them. They're outside like they're in 5th grade again. It's good for them to have these ideas, and it's good for them to be up and moving, and it gets me outside fresh air too, right? And so, that's kind of where I've been kind of put my mind since Miss Lewis brought this up, is like, honestly, she told me the subject, dang, I wouldn't have a classroom without this. I wouldn't have the student participation without this, but I also realize it's good for their health and my own. And so those are things I really think about when I'm creating lessons, when I'm reaching out to coworkers, when I'm helping come up with like different lessons and content. How can we get everybody and be okay with it?
That's right. Yeah.
Why you guys I had the kids in handcuffs?
That was interesting, man. I would have been interested to see what that looks like.
Listen, we have it searching. What is it? Searching some type of protocol going on in her room all the time. So it's really, the kids love her class, and they love the movement and the things that she do, and how she can turn a worksheet type of concept into an activity where the kids might be in handcuffs, or they might be creating. I sat in her classroom as a juror for a mock trial on SpongeBob, who SpongeBob killed somebody. He stabbed somebody up.
No.
You got SpongeBob. We could keep it super serious all the time, or we can like deal with the fact that we are still teaching children. Like they're different ages, they're in different stages of development, and like again, we act like high schoolers are so grown, but they really are Diet Coke adults. Like they're not there yet. And still have that vein of, youth to them, that they want that type of humor, but they're still learning. So, I mean, joke out a lot. Lewis knows that. So if I can give you material, but I can make it funny, especially like subject matter, like we talking murder business, but that's okay. So, it's okay to like inject some humor in there, and that's gonna get them moving too. Laughing or getting up, demonstrating something, acting something out. Make it a part of your rubric. Which was something I was gonna say. One of the things about that SpongeBob trial that Miss Lewis was referencing is, it's a mock trial, but part of your grade is not only does everybody have to speak, but you have to stand up when you speak. Why? That's courtroom procedure. So we're gonna keep doing but it challenges those students who like they get in class, get in their little bubble, and they just sit there. And the longer they sit there, then the phone goes out, and then the Chromebook goes to something different that's not anything to do with class. Let me put that. Let me make you slightly uncomfortable without putting you on too much of a display, because everybody. So this is not singling anyone out. We're not ostracizing people. We're making sure that this is something that everybody's doing and everybody's getting the same grade.
Right.
Yeah. So, Mr. Golden,
Yes, ma'am.
how do you infuse movement inside of your classroom?
So a few things first. I don't want to alienate a whole group of teachers who have been sitting down, because I can see, like, if I'm a teacher and I've been sitting down, I'm like, I'm not about to watch this. You know, I'm not about to. But the truth is, you know, we have to grow in our profession, right? So we have vertical boards in our classrooms, you know, given by the county to facilitate this 360 math room kind of deal. And just teaching kids how to do what you want them to do when they're moving. Because I agree, moving is a big part of learning, being engaged. But at the end of the day, if you haven't given your teachers the professional development to how to get that behavior going, like, what does it look like for you to be moving and for you to be on task? What are my expectations while you're doing this? Otherwise, you just have a whole group of kids just running around and you're like, well, they should be engaged, right? You know, so that's a part of the thing that I think that we could, that's something that's helped me. Because a lot of times my higher ups or my administrators will come in and say, I noticed this, you know, I wonder what could we do to kind of get them more motivated, more moving. And when you say that to a teacher, but you don't give them the kind of tools to have effective movement, then you get teachers who have stations but haven't taught the kids how to move to different stations. You get teachers who want to do project-based learning, but it's project-based learning with no real goal or no task or no target for them to reach. So the kids are like, I don't know what we did. I know we did a lot of moving, but I don't know what we did. So one of the things we do in the classroom, we just teach them how to get up, how to move, right?
Yeah.
Then we teach them how, if I'm facilitating this lesson, this is what the conversation should be. If I don't hear those conversations, I'm going to address some other students in the classroom who are having positive conversations. Hopefully you get the message. I always tell my kids, like, you know, hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, push, push, you know, this is the kind of conversation I want to hear. And once you do that, you start building that environment for kids to say, okay, this is what Mr. Golden wants us to do. Now, when I was talking about earlier, there is some parts of the classroom where I say some teachers are super effective when the desk is the focal point, but it's because of what they're doing, right? That first beginning part of the day when they're coming in and they say, I'm going to model for you what we're going to do. Or I'm going to give you a question that I want you to think about. And I'm going to ask you, what do you notice? What do you wonder? And then we're going to get some practice down for how do we take down our notes on what we're thinking about the question. How are we going to be actively engaged in that? Because that has to also be taught. So once you get past that, then you can have this environment like I had with my accelerated group. We were doing some facilitated learning on how to find slope and how to find y-intercept. And we just did it with complete scenarios. Real-based scenarios. We did it based on finances. Let's say if you were running a business and you had to borrow some money, what's that, what does this mean? Let's look at it at the graph and what do you notice? What do you wonder? So it's those kind of conversations. It's that kind of moving. Every kid's at the vertical board talking with their partner. What does this point on it mean? Not using vocab yet, but just saying, what does this point mean? And then having the kid bring that vocab in. So it's all about those steps and what you do to get there. But I completely agree. You got to incorporate movement. You got to teach them how to do that movement and what does it look like to be or have effective conversations.
I agree. That is great. Yes. So, and I know we don't want to I don't want to make this like a teacher bashing session, right?
Right.
Where, because everybody have their own rhythm and everybody know how to do things in their own way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And engagement can look millions of different ways.
Right.
It does not have to be one, distinct way of how it should. Now, I think a lot of school districts pay for all of these engagement tools that are not conducive to the population of students that we have. I'm not going to call out any companies by name, but a lot of these engagement companies that they use, well, I need to because I can't give you a better idea as to what I'm talking. So let's say Kagan, for instance. The Kagan approach is great, but I think that approach is great for elementary school kids. and kids that are not, how should I say, not impaired with any type of
I think I pick up what you're putting down.
I am
yeah,
too.
you see what I'm saying? That
Yeah.
they don't
So
have attention or engagement or any type of deficits in behaviors, right?
okay.
I think that a lot of districts don't really think about our population, right? And they don't think about us. They're making high school teachers, you know, infuse this approach with students where you know, smile and use the cheese grater for your kids, right? And we're like, not so much, because that
Kids like, what?
you know, a high school kid you know, not gonna be, oh, I'm cheese grating, Miss Lewis, you know, instead of you know, getting just regular you know, esteem or praise from your teacher, where it's more cultural, right? It's more driven, where I have built a connection with these kids. So I think a lot of times, you know, they seek outside of us to find ways on how to keep kids engaged. Now, before COVID happened, I was paperless. Well, I tried to be 95% paperless prior to COVID. So COVID was a great way, it was an easy or smooth transition for me when we were virtually learning, because I did a lot of those things already in the classroom before we went into quarantine. But I think that a lot of teachers are stuck in their ways, and we don't want to change, right? We didn't like Google Classroom, or we don't like Canvas. So we try to do it our way, but still just fly below the radar to get things done. And I don't think that's helping the students. So I think that a lot of times as teachers, we always have to be student focused. It's not about what I like. I might not like to walk.
Right.
But I have to get up out of my seat and walk around and circulate the classroom for engagement, or just to see if your students are doing what they're supposed to do. And I think that a lot of times we just get stuck in our ways. So I want to talk about that. Like, what if one day you had a principal and he removed all the desks from the classroom?
I would have a fit. But I mean, because when you think about teaching is like there's so many things that happen in the teaching profession. I mean, that are outside of just teaching. You think about all the things that are on the teacher's plate, and the ways we have to change. I mean, we saw an entire profession change from in classroom to virtual. Now I think at any other profession, it may be a little bit hard to do, but teachers, we do this on regular. I know teachers make 25 different life-changing decisions before the kids even come in, you know, so having those thoughts about, you know, what kind of mindset you have to have. You know, I love Carol Dweck's work and about just mathematical mindsets, and then, you know, just figuring out, okay, I have to have a growth mindset, you know what I mean, or a fixed mindset. And trying to get an adult out of a fixed mindset, I mean, it can be difficult. Yeah. But what you have to do is, it's always about that approach. You know, say, you know, hey, Miss Johnson, I see that your kids are very respectful. They're very quiet. They're sitting in their desk. They're doing exactly what they need to do. I wonder what would happen if we did this, you know, and then give the teacher some tools to do that. Because oftentimes what I see is higher up saying this class isn't engaged, and then walk out of the classroom. Okay, you got to treat the teachers like you treat the students. Respect me enough to approach me in a way that, you know, is feasible for me to say, okay, I can grasp this, you know, and don't give me a whole bunch of sit and get professional developments. Give me the strategy, teach me the strategy while you're informing me about the strategy. Those have been the best professional developments that I've been in. So with teachers that have fixed mindsets, I think that's the best way to approach, is to you know, do that.
And what about when students have to show learning, when you have to demonstrate learning from a student, because giving them a worksheet and telling them turn it, and here's the packet, here's a worksheet, fill it out, turn it back in. How are you demonstrating growth within students? Yes.
I was gonna that was gonna be kind of part of what my angle is. Like Mr. Golden was like, would have a fit if they took the desk. I would run around and do cartwheels in my classroom. No sense. But also I would just have more space. Like I like to be moving. But I was gonna say, there are certain things that you cannot get from a worksheet. You just can't. There's a lot of like we have those different learning styles, right? Some people are audio, visual, kinesthetic, what have you. You have to be able, one way to get that engagement across the spectrum and hit all of the markers is to try to project those different learning types into your lesson. Your worksheet is great, but what else could you possibly do with this work? Could you have work groups? So now you've got them working from a social aspect. I had my kids make a TikTok enters to something because they gonna be on TikTok, right? Okay,
right.
Make me a TikTok. Me a TikTok. Teach me something.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to, like, much like Ms. Lewis, like you said, like you kind of have to be able to meet students where they're at and let that also inform the practice that you're going to put in the classroom, right? And so it's like I said, let's do our TikTok, or what else can we do with this worksheet? Can we turn this worksheet into a bigger project? Can I have one of my students come up and teach how to complete this worksheet?
That's right.
What other things can you do? So it does, sometimes that does require a level of creativity that's not inherent to a lot of us, even especially those of us that have a fixed mindset on things, right? It's very hard to admit to yourself, like, I could probably be doing more, but since I don't know what to do, I'm just going to stay right here. I think one thing that we could all benefit from is just never stop being curious or nosy. I call it nosy. So I've pulled up in Miss class way too many times. Sometimes it's just to say hi, but other times, I do this to other, colleagues as well. There's nobody prompting me to do this. First, nosy, but second, I'm okay with being in my right. Like I've only been doing this for 3 years. I didn't go to school for this. I'm still learning things. It's the requirements for teachers. There's levels of engagement or encouraging engagement that you only can get if you go out, like you said, Mr. Gold, you can't sit. You have to go out and be active and go look at colleagues and be like, oh, well, that may not work, but this works for me. And so being able to kind of encourage yourself. Not my ministry, but okay. And not even incorporate it in a fake way. You don't ever want to be fake because kids are like emotional bloodhounds. They know when you fake.
Oh, right? They can tell.
They know when
they can.
Why you up? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
If a way to just organically incorporate that stuff, see what the kids are doing, meet the kids where they're at. Like Ms. Lewis says, we're dealing with high school kids. They're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're doing all kinds of other stuff. Like, what are you? I'm the one that's like, what are y'all looking at? What are you looking at? And once I figure it out, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. What can I do to expand this? What can I do to engage them on their level with the things that they're already using? So it doesn't necessarily feel like learning sometimes. Now we just engage because we're curious to see what stuff Miss A is gonna do.
Yeah.
Right.
But for me, it's like you have to push yourself out of a comfort zone. Don't ever say, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Don't ever believe that you know all there is to know about what you're doing, because I think we all attest to this, especially because we've all been through COVID. Lewis and Mr. Gold, y'all got time on me. So you know how quickly this field changes.
Yeah.
It almost does yourself a disservice to be like, I've done everything I need to do. I got my certifications, and that's it.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit with these certifications
right here and here. It never hurts.
You can't tell me how to teach, right?
Right, to go out, see what somebody else is doing, especially even people that are younger than me. I may be 3 years in the game. youngest teacher, I'm going to go look at that kid fresh out of college, especially if they went to school for education. They've gotten a clip ahead of me on something that I just never got. What are they doing? Reach out to your veteran teachers. We had a teacher who's been teaching for what, like 50, 60 years now?
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's 90. He just made a birthday.
What?
He's
Yeah.
Get it.
A math teacher
look
too.
at his classroom. What is keeping him so now? I'm just nosy and I'm curious. What is keeping you there that long? What are you doing to still maintain, you know, behavior standards in your class? What are you doing that's keeping people, you know, Matt, I want to know. So guess what I'm gonna do? Go be nosy.
Be nosy, right?
Yeah,
right.
be nosy. And a lot of times, and I agree, because sometimes we don't want to grow, because growth requires work, right? It requires you to not be so comfortable, right? So a lot of times people, and that's with anything, you know, sometimes we just want to keep our same regimen the same way. But I always go and peer into my fellow teachers' classrooms just to see what they're doing, and the ones that I know that are doing something. And that's the thing, you know, we hear parents say all the time, you know, they expect certain things from their teachers, of their kids, and I always make sure that I strive to be the best. And at the same time, I want to make sure I'm an asset to this kid. So if I'm teaching from a book, am I really an asset to this student? Right? If I'm in 2022, I don't want to hurt no one's feelings, and I'm just being real. If you're still ordering books, hard books in 2022, are you in your best self as an educator? Because let me tell you, I was a math teacher for a very long time, Mr. Golden, and I don't know if you use books, but books and worksheets were okay, but I didn't teach from a book. When I taught Algebra 1, I never picked up that book. Yes, they put them in my class.
We didn't either,
But I never went to the book because the book is complicated. And I know my approach was easier, right? My approach was more concise. My approach was less chaotic. My approach wasn't so scary for kids. Because math is scary, right? So
it can be. It can
be.
Yeah.
So I just want us to grow as professionals and just talking, because listening to certain things, you know, you are seeing certain things. I'm like, you know, and I have this ongoing conversation with one of my fellow teachers. She's on here now, and you know, she said, well, I'm getting this I'm getting books for my kids. And I was like, why do you need some books? Why do we need books here? And she was like, well, because, you know, I teach this and I think that they need a book. No, you need a book. They don't need a book. And that's what we have to really, really surround ourselves around. It's not about us. It's about what these babies need. And these babies are not reading books. They're not in the book. And I'm not saying that they don't need a book. But what I'm saying is, in order to engage and holistically teach this kid, how am I going to get a kid who may not know how to read to learn linear functions? So, Mr. Golden, I'm going to pivot that to you. Like, you have kids come in all reading levels in your class, right?
Tons, man. I've got some EL students. I've got students that, even my accelerated students are like, Mr. Golden, that's a lot of reading. So, I mean, we really do have to change and pivot for where the kids are at this point right now. Now, I won't say that throw all the books out. I think that what we need to do is figure out what's our approach and how we're going to, you know, because let's say I have a teacher. I had a teacher like this. I won't say when. I don't want any, you know, hints or whatever. But I know I was working with a colleague that, she needed the book. She needed the book. She needed the learning target. She needed to figure out what was expected. She needed all those things, because as you grow in the profession, and you know, like I was teaching Algebra 1, I was like, oh, this is good. I mean, I can teach this with these algebra tiles, and you know, completing the square can be more than just, you know, a set of steps. It can be something transformative for students. But at the end of the day, there are colleagues who need those books because that self-efficacy is like, I don't know if I'm able to be enough to teach these kids. So what we have to do is, like you said, Surround yourself with colleagues who are who are open, who are caring, because there are some colleagues, like you said, working with adults is difficult. There are some colleagues that'll look at you and be like, oh, she grabbing this and he doing that. I'm not, that's not what we doing over here.
Yeah.
You really have to embrace that teacher. Like I had to embrace that teacher and say, you used the book today? Oh, that's awesome. You did. You made some progress today. I wonder what would happen if we took what the book had and we kind of incorporated this to make it like this. Because I understood that if I came in and said, oh, well, that's my kids don't even do that. I don't know what. I've seen teachers turn off and be like, first of all, you're not in my classroom. You don't do X, Y, Z. You don't get the kids I got. But we have to be open. So the only way we can be open with these teachers is to say, okay, let's figure out where you are as an educator.
Mm-hmm.
Let's figure out how we can move forward. Let's think about the kids for a moment. Let's think about, would they be engaged if we said, okay, turn to page 13, look at this paragraph and read this, and then answer these questions. They're not going to be engaged. Not at all.
No.
But if you took that same problem.
I got to fix my face, Mr. Golden. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay.
You said turn the page, read a paragraph.
Right. You turn the page, you like, the kids are automatically like, ugh, I don't want to do that. I got to read this. I got to do this whole paragraph. Kids want to be involved in the learning. They want to be able to they want to say, how can I see myself in what we're doing? So when you're talking about linear functions, you're talking about quadratic equations, you're talking about exponential equations. What does that mean? Oh, instead of talking about exponential equations, let's talk about going to Waffle House. And let's say it's a piece of bacteria on your waffle and it doubles every hour. If you let your plate sit there for how long, how many, pieces of bacteria you're going to have. Let them think about that.
Yeah.
If it doubles, what's that going to look like? Before you start talking about, all right, I want you to read on Half-Life, and I want you to read this paragraph, and I want you to think about this. And then I want you to write a paragraph for me and what you just read. The kids will be like, I could probably be on my phone right now. So
yeah.
And as a teacher, if I came in and observed, I'd be like, I wish I had my phone too. So
yeah. And constructive criticism is important too, because a lot of times when we give constructive criticism to people, they might take it like you are being condescending, or you are being too critical, or oh, you think you know it all because you're doing this. And I want to make sure that as educators that we're open, we're not closed, because we have to teach these people's children, right? And we have to get them to a point where they're lawyers, doctors, and Indian chiefs, okay? We have to get them to a point where they are successful. But, we don't always make the cut. Let me
make sure that we don't turn this into a get rid of the desks and burn all the books.
Yeah.
That's my secret.
Here's where I'm at. I ask myself this. So I don't use a book in my class, but I need books for my class, right? I need to be able to reference cases. I need to be able to, reference legal terms, be able to reference different codes and things, right? But I don't want to impart that punishment of going through all of that directly on my students. So here's where I'm at. And this is something I ask myself when I am taking book material and putting it in my class. Is this necessary? And how can I make it relevant?
Yeah.
Because that's something that we deal with a lot. Like, books are not the evil of the educational system. Like, we need them, right? But at the same time, one thing that I've noticed, especially because I'm teaching a subject matter that's always changing, like watch the news, something's changed, right? I find that the books that are often coming out from my subject matter are outdated as soon as I get them. They can be a 2022 or 2021 book, and it's already outdated.
Yeah.
So many things. So I really have to be careful in how much onus I put on, let's read page 13 or page 32.
Yeah.
Because it may not apply anymore. Something may change, and I don't want to let that run everything I'm doing. But some of those things are necessary. So if they are necessary, how can I make them relevant? What else can I pull in that's going to give them engagement but still allow them to have that course material.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I feel like, you know, even for our colleagues who've been in the game for a long time, one simple change that I've seen a lot of like veteran teachers who, you know, have been in the game, one thing I've seen them be able to do that doesn't give them a 180 pivot, but it still kind of turns the tide a little bit, is to inject some relevancy into what they're doing. It can be the same material that they've been teaching or same units that they've been teaching for years, but let's put a different spin on it. Let's throw in something that's a little more modern. Let's make sure that we have something that's been happening in the past, you know, few years. What are the kids doing on their phones? Like, that was something, you know, let me kind of jump there. I keep talking about TikTok, but it was one thing I noticed, like when I first got in the classroom, I was like, these kids stay on their phone.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
we don't have any Wi-Fi. Well, how are y'all doing this?
Yeah.
But before I got angry, at first I got angry and I was like, I want to know what they're doing. Because something that's keeping their attention, they're a rat for like 30. What can I do to be there so they're not on their phone? So now we're doing our TikToks. Teach me how to do the TikTok dance. I can't dance. What? You're up out of your seat. You're not sleeping in my class. And you're not on your phone ignoring me. You're including me. We're doing this together. And so it's one of those where like, you kind of have to just take a look and maybe not try to be super hip, cool teacher and be super pop culture, but find some things that are relevant for the demographic that you're dealing with. And then material is necessary. Find ways to like zhuzh it up a little bit. Let's make it a little more.
Zhuzh it up.
Just zhuzh it up just a little.
Culturally responsive teaching. Dr. Childs taught me that.
Yes, culturally, yes.
And if he's still on here, he'll be very happy. Yes, he introduced me to that concept last year. I think it was last year when I had him on, and he came with everything, okay? And he unpacked how that impacts a child in their learning. Just like what you're saying, like, what are they watching? How can I infuse that inside my classroom? But movement can also be a part of that cyclical process that you have in your classroom. I listed some tools that you can use to incite movement or engagement, but what are we doing to bring culturally relevant teaching, right, into the classroom where kids are actually engaged? Because I don't even need a book to let them know what I'm teaching and how I'm teaching it, because right when they walk in, they know exactly what we're doing. Like, I don't get that, what we're doing today, Miss Lewis, anymore, because I have all the bells and whistles set up. So preparation is also important, right? I'm not an early bird, Mr. Golden. You will never catch me at school before
You're right on time.
But before I leave, I have everything set up so when I walk in, it's there. But I did something called speed dating this year inside of my classroom.
Okay.
Okay. It was more like musical chairs, but I wanted, you know, the kids, they know that I have a podcast. They haven't seen it, of course, but they know, and they know that's one of my businesses. And, you know, we use learning as in the same way as us learning each other and growing as a person and increasing your value. So they have business plans that they have to complete. So they market and network with one another inside of the classroom with speed dating. So I call it speed dating. And I also email parents just to let them know, hey, speed dating is not actually dating. What we're doing, we are marketing and networking with our business plans, and they're learning how to communicate, right? So they're going table to table. They have X amount of time to get someone to score on their card, you know, to like their business plan. But I say all that to say the kids love it and they demand it. They're like, hey, Miss Lewis, okay, we're doing this new one. This new slide, hey, we need to speed date this. And they say it all the time. And I'm like, come on, y'all. We don't need to speed date everything. But they like the engagement. Yeah, so.
You got to provide that resource.
Oh yeah, I have it on my teacher space teachers, but I will provide it to you guys.
There you go. I love resources, man.
But
This is of multiple streams, okay?
Yes, got it all. I
I
love it.
try. But yeah, movement is important. So
Yeah.
the aesthetics too. That's important.
Definitely. I was about to hit this.
Yeah, simply beautiful. She said
So
much your classroom aesthetics is like that. Yeah, you have to have that too.
it acts. You one of again, she is a woman of many talents, Mr. Golden, a woman of many talents. So her classroom is absolutely bougie swag, and I love it.
Nice, nice.
And you know, I was gonna kind of get on this. Part of engagement is and getting to know. There's also a level of authenticity that needs to be had when you are approaching this. You know, approaching students and building a class environment. What are you trying to do? So I teach criminal justice. There's plenty of options for me to be very pro-police in my classroom decor. I could have that thin blue line out there. I don't do it. I'm kind of the opposite. I've got Tupac and Nipsey hung up in the classroom, right?
You do.
Here's why though. And it's not an act of defiance. It's really because the last thing I want to do, given my subject matter, is I'm dealing with a population of students who have experienced adverse childhood experiences related to this subject, this field, police, courts, foster care, childhood trauma, you know, abuse. If I have children that are dealing with that, the last thing I want them to do is come to an environment like, oh, she's one of them. Because they're instantly going to shut down. They're instantly going to disengage. They don't want to learn. They don't want to get up. They don't want to participate. I don't want you to handcuff me because I've seen somebody handcuffed before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so how can I flip that? Let me show you how to do this the right way.
Right.
And so if you see this happen to someone you know, or if this happens, here's what you do about it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how to move forward. But I have to say, like, you can, you know, it's important to create a space that caters to the people, like really get to know who you're dealing with, who are your students, and then put your own authenticity in the space. Like, I mean, you know, Miss Lewis is just naturally, her aesthetic suits who she is. And so when it came time for me to decorate my classrooms, I finally got my own classroom, big money. What I finally did, I struggled at first, but I did reach out to her and I was like, you know, this is kind of what I'm going for, but I also want to make sure this is a space where if you walk in my classroom, you don't know if you're going to get English, you don't know DJ, you don't know if you get math, you don't know what you're going to get, but this is a space where you're comfortable and you're okay.
That's
and
right.
You're going to be more likely to engage with me because I'm not shutting you off with the message in the space that we're in.
Yeah.
And that's something that I would, you know, I would even just, you know, encourage other people to do. I think a lot of times we get caught up in the idea that like our classroom has to be very much learning focused. We have everything.
ABCs around the classroom.
Right. Like
Yeah.
has to be like third grade, you know, aesthetic. And that's not the case. It's okay to let of your authentic personality come through. It's okay to create a comfortable space for students. It's not going to put them to sleep. They're going to walk in and be like, who got Nipsey on the wall?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is he here? I thought I was in CJ. But it's okay to kind of put those pieces of yourself out there because transparency is going to get your students engaged.
Yeah.
I've had students, yo, I got to take medical leave. Things are real right now. I got more work from them when I wasn't there, when we were back in person, than I got when we were. I mean, part of it's because we were too busy talking when I was there. Too busy. But, you know, being able to be somewhat transparent, we're not telling everybody's business, but we are saying, hey, here's who I am. Here's what I'm about. What are you about? Let's meet on a level. We're obviously of different age groups. We're obviously of different generations, but if we can meet in the middle and where these kids can still, you know, feel like they're going to learn something of value from someone who's being authentic about why they're there, we're starting somewhere positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are the things I was really saying is like, it's okay to have your aesthetic match your personality. It doesn't have to be cookie cutter or box or like your, you know, your home down the hall or your third grade classroom. It can be.
Yeah.
Mr. Golden,
Yes, ma'am.
how's your classroom set up?
So let me tell you, I'm gonna be honest. I was sitting here listening, like, man, I remember them first few days where I was in class, my first few years as a teacher. I'm absolutely horrible at designing. So what I did was I knew what my struggles were. I found some teachers that would help me, you know, visualize what I wanted, because I came in. It was one year I knew I had to do something, because somebody came in my classroom and they was like, "Oh, okay, what do you teach?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, all right." So you don't know what I teach, okay? But the kids though were like, "Man, we love this class. It's so engaging." Da, 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 da. But they just like, I had to paint the room with my personality, because and me trying to put something up, you know, it was bad when I put up a bulletin board thing, and I tried my hardest. And one of my teachers came in and said, "You know, that's crooked. That's not. I don't know if that's." So I mean, I had to really just be like, okay, I gotta find somebody who's really interested in, you know, and that's like building friends and building relationships in the classroom. Because like for my classroom this year, I got my vertical whiteboards up. I tried to do Mario theme this year, but then I quickly realized these kids ain't playing Mario like I used to play Mario. So I was like, okay, I got to change it. So I was like, okay, cool. Let me do some anime, because the kids love anime. I love anime. So it's like, okay, let's do that. And so we had to change up some things. And it's okay to change up, but the kids were engaged. I used some group contingency stuff to kind of give rewards and incentives to do better in class. But I mean, yeah, I had to lean on my teachers and say, "Hey, Miss Smart, I want to do this. How can I do this with these materials? Because I know if I put it up there, it's going to be trash. And I know the kids are going to tell me it's trash. And all they're going to be talking about is this trash poster." So
Nothing wrong with outsourcing.
yes. Hey, Marsha, how you doing?
You got to look to those veteran teachers. The one thing I know a veteran teacher can do is they go get a classroom together. Listen.
Yes, they will have it together.
Somebody who's 15, 20 years in the game, they're like, oh, because that's exactly what happened to me. Like, Miss came in, and then shout out to D, Miss Harris, and Miss Chambers. They were like, oh, you got to do something.
Yeah, we're not leaving the boards with corkboard on there. Like, we're not gonna put you out there. Yeah.
I too am not a decorator. Like, I'm not.
Yes.
They were like, oh, we got to do something. And they really did come, like, have my back. And then through that, I'm like, all right, these are the things I like. I like sneakers. I'm slightly ghetto. I do love anime, so I got to send you my anime.
I'm slightly ghetto.
Yes.
I'm like Diet Coke ghetto, right? I have degrees. So once they got me together, oh, these are the things that I like. So, you know, much to what you said, like, some of my kids, they don't know who Nipsey Hussle is. They don't know. It becomes a moment. Some of my kids didn't know who Tupac was, which, all right.
Yeah.
But now we have a teachable moment. And so I actually did like a lesson on Tupac when he got shot in Vegas. We kind of did a whole scenario. They had to draw it out. Now they're getting up out of the seat, going over to this board where I got Tupac up with paper on the back. Thank you, Miss Lewis, for making sure I didn't use corkboard. But I use the things, and I think that's kind of where that authenticity injection comes in that classroom. Is like, you can say, hey, let's go do something over here, or let me reference this person in the back of my classroom. Let me tie that into a lesson. Like, there's so many different actions you can take in that space to keep the. Right. But yes. I'm alone.
Yes. I've been horrible.
Yeah, like one day, Mr. Golden, I had an epiphany like 4 years ago, maybe. I'm showing my age with this, but I had an epiphany. I went into Starbucks and I was waiting for my drink, and Miss Tasha on here talking about my New Orleans accent coming out. I'm trying to suppress it.
Oh, sorry.
But I was in Starbucks and I noticed that, you know, people were engaged. They were sitting down. They were drinking their coffee. They were learning in their own measure, right? In their own silos. So I said, I want my classroom to be like this. Like, my classroom needs to be more pleasing to the to the eye, and at the same time, I want my kids
Right.
to be comfortable like that, right? So I put in for a teacher grant, and I was awarded $500 by the PTA to,
Hey.
back then they called it flexible seating.
Oh yeah, I
So
remember.
Yep.
remember when that craze came out?
Yeah.
Everybody was on flexible seating. So I bought futons and like a bar, little pub area. I bought a papasan chair. I think that's what you call it. But and I still have some of those things, but those are the things that are still used the most in my classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Like kids will go directly to the futon, or they'll go directly to my papasan chair, because it's different from a desk,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I said we could throw all the desks away. We could throw the teacher desk and the kids' desk away. Give me some tables,
Right.
and need some medicine balls that they can sit on, or some stools, and we can make it happen. Or the rolling chairs, because I have like 4 rolling chairs. Kids will go for the high schoolers are going for the
Yeah, always. Even
yeah.
as an
They
adult,
try
I
to
go
get
for
their
the
class
rolling chairs.
first, so they
Graders.
can rolling chairs.
They turn into 5th graders all over again. They're like, they literally
Yeah,
scoot across the classroom. Like, I'm over to so-and-so's chair.
yes. So
Right.
you know, teachers should not be afraid to, tippy toe and revolutionize and evolve, right? And get their kids more engaged. And then at the same time, you're going to like it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't try to, like, and I always say this, like, I try to think about, okay, if it's in the book and it's on a worksheet, how can I make it
Exactly.
Miss Lewis fashion? Like, how can I make it more tech savvy? What can I do? And there are tons of resources on Teachers Pay Teachers. You should see the things, or even Instagram. You can just hashtag what you're trying to do, and you're going to see things come up. I think that it's important that we try to push beyond what we're comfortable doing.
Right.
Right?
I agree, man, wholeheartedly.
So I was throw this out there real quick, because you said engagement. I just thought about like stuff that when we all went through that pandemic virtual learning, it was really hard to keep students engaged, right?
Oh,
But
yeah.
one thing that coming back to in person that I've noticed is, like, if it worked virtually, it still definitely works in person. So one thing I've found is, like, off the top, straight off the rip engagement is make a playlist. Make your students make a playlist. Make your students make a list. So, Mr. Golden, you were talking about anime. I have my kids tell me, yo, what's your favorite anime? Go write it on over there.
Yeah, and you put them on the board, right?
And I put them on the board.
Yeah.
Like, what's your favorite song? Why is it your favorite song? Let's argue, okay? Who's better, Blackpink or BTS? Why?
Yes, yes.
But, like, I get them to make their own playlist. Something that we can play while we're working. I can't dance. Here I go at the front of the classroom, showing my kids that, no, I can't dance. Mind's business. But I'm engaged with you. But you're pointing at me, or you showing me how to do the TikTok dance the right way, or you're just kind of like stretching your legs and being okay and feeling comfortable. Music definitely has been one of those big engagement tools in my classroom. And it also lets us learn about me, they learn about themselves, and they learn about each other, right? So that was one major thing. The other thing that I was going to say is I have literally incentivized not being on your phone.
That's good. What works? If it works, it works.
I read this article about a local high school where they have banned the use of phones for students and for teachers. For some students, like, it is a comfort thing. It's a comfort thing. Like, they're more comfortable just kind of being in their own little space on their phone. Fine. What can I do? Let's incentivize this. If you can give me your attention for an hour, I'll give you the last 15. I don't want to hear myself for an hour. I know you don't want to hear me either. So we agree. If you can give me your attention for an hour, I'll give you your 15, 20 minutes. Do you go for it? I have gotten a high level of engagement because they know, and I modeled it, like, throughout the year. So If it was like 30 minutes in and somebody on their phone, well, we don't have that time today. You know,
Yeah.
we're pushing. So I modeled it over the first weeks of the school year. And so now, you know, unless I'm telling them to use their phones to do something, they know that those last 20 minutes, I can, you know, do whatever I want. I can keep my friends. I can, you know, show her a ridiculous video, whatever the case may be, right? But I've kind of just said, hey, if you can, and I know that feels like a very like, I had a teacher tell me my first year that that was a very immature approach. Like you shouldn't reward, they should just be expected to not do that. Yeah, so not only am I nosy, I'm also hard-headed. I'm not listening to that. So if I bribe these kids,
all behavior is taught, man.
Let's do it. Let's do it. But that lets me know that we have, you know, 60 minutes of uninterrupted engagement time. I have your attention for that amount of time. And then, you know what? Thank you for giving me your attention. Now, it's okay to disengage. That's something that I feel like we don't always say, too. Like, we're pushing engagement. We also have to realize we're dealing with kids. And I don't know about you also. I'm a parent of very young children, right? And then I teach kids who are almost at adulthood. But it's a different set of problems that still kind of hits the same way.
Yeah.
My kids are still growing. Occasionally, they're going to get tired, you know? They still have recess. Sometimes they're going to want to disengage. We have to be okay with them needing that time out that's not built into an IEP or a 504. They are just kids. My high schoolers, they're working, they're raising their younger siblings, they're trying to do college and sports and all these things. And so it's okay sometimes to have that one day or so where they're not super engaged. It's okay to kind of disengage a bit. Let them, or let there be more of an ebb and flow of what we're doing. And that can't, I mean, as long as that doesn't become the norm, then we're good. But sometimes it's okay to be like, yo, we've been through it.
Yeah.
Like the Friday before spring break, they're not into it. Let's be honest. We aren't into it. We're like, whoo, child, I'm break. Yeah, we need to get some learning done, but it's okay for us to be like, all right, have a little more time on your phone, or let's do something fun. Let's do a fun Kahoot. Let's do a pop culture, you know, quiz, something like quizzes. I stole that from Miss Lewis.
Quizzes is good
Let's
too.
do something more fun that is still kind of keeping you there, but you're not, the onus isn't solely on you learning content and material.
Yeah, I agree. And Mr. Golden, do you okay, let's get a gauge. I don't want to move away too much from our primary thing. I know we're dwelling down on time. But Mr. Golden, on a typical day in your classroom, let's say your class session is what, 60 minutes? I don't know how long.
About 50 minutes.
50 minutes. Okay. Out of those 50 minutes, how long are you, how many minutes are you at your desk, behind your desk, sitting down?
Not at all, man. You know, as soon as my kids come in, I incentivize them being on time. So the first 10 kids that come in and log in to Desmos to read the story prompt, then, you know, they get what we call cardinal cash, and they can use that for whatever. So I sit at my desk to take my attendance, and then I get back up. And then by that time, the kids have, you know, looked at the story prompt or looked at whatever the engagement piece is, and they've answered it on their computers. They looked at their other colleagues. I call them their colleagues. So they look at their other colleagues' work and they say, well, I agree with this person because so-and-so, like, we had one question where it was like, would you rather have, I think it was like $1 million right now, or would you rather have a penny, you know, and it doubles every day for X amount of time. So we had them have conversations like that while I'm taking roll. But then after that, I'm setting the stage for what's expected for them to learn. We talk about modeling. And then after that, I give them time to practice. And then I walk around and say, what kind of conversations are you having? What kind of, you know, answers are you placing in? And then after that, toward the end, we talk about what kind of responses we're giving. Because as you have your conversations, you also have to type.
That's
that
right.
way we can keep track of what you're actually saying. And then I pull it up on the board. I say, and they know I pull it up on the board, so they can't put random stuff. I say, you know, I sure would like to see what Johnny says. So let me take a look at what Johnny says. So, oh, you know, I love the way Johnny said this. I love the way Johnny said that. And what I do purposely is pull up students who are on track, who are on level. So that way the students who are not there yet, they see what the expectation is. They get a chance to change their answer if they think they need to. And then sometimes we have like my favorite no. I haven't done it in a while, but we have what's called my favorite no, or my favorite wrong answer. You take a look and I ask the student, you mind if I pull your question up? I won't put your name up there, but you mind if I pull your answer up? We pull it up and I say, you know, this student is almost right. You know, they're on the right track, but what do you think we could do to get this student on the right track? I'll tell them, talk to their neighbors. They'll do that, and I'll take it back old school to elementary and pull a name out of the cup, and I'll say, okay, we're going for Christine. And Christine, tell me what you got. So that's kind of what the environment is like on a daily basis.
Sounds fun. I would like to be in that math class because I remember being in math classes that were horrible, right? And I'm gonna just be real because I think a lot of times, you know, we don't really get the realness because sometimes, you know, have veteran teachers been there a long time. Administrators stay away from them. They don't really, because they can't do nothing to them. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of times, you know, you just have that and it just compounds. But that sounds very fun. So let's say out of the 50, let's quantify it, like 10 minutes.
So yeah, so we always do like we call it balanced numeracy. So we think about, you know, 10% of the class, you know, we give the teachers up to about 10% of the class to think about what's your engagement piece, what's your drawing in. Then after that, we think about a 15%, you know, because different schools have different times. So we think about 15%, and we kind of break it up into percentages, but about 30 or 50% of that class period time should be them actively engaged, talking about something. You should never be the sage on the stage to talk the entire time.
Yeah.
Now, it's okay if you have to break the class down, like I do Marco Polo. So when I notice something is going wrong, I say, all right, when I say Marco, you say Polo, Marco, and they say Polo. And I say, okay, let's think about what we're doing. I see a lot of misconceptions. Let's talk about it a little bit. Then after we talk about it, I let them go back into it and then try to spin. This is something I'm working on professionally, trying to end the class with in the class on time, because it always runs out on me. I'm like, we're in it, we talking about it, I'm trying to wrap everything up, but making sure that those last 2 to 5% of the time is spent on wrapping the lesson back up, making sure kids get what you were supposed to give them, or get out what you intended for them to get, and then use that same data to drive your lesson for the next day.
Yeah, and I agree because of that issue that I have with time management, I normally give the homework first. So I was like, okay, here we go. Homework is up here, you know, while I'm doing my, you know, attendance or what have you. Homework is already, boom, is up there. Make sure y'all take your phones out, take a picture, write it down, you know, whatever you need to do. So yeah, that's very important. So Connie, how long? The 78 minutes that we have for
78. I get 78?
78 minutes.
What? You know what I could do with 78 minutes?
Yeah. But they eat lunch for 72 minutes, right?
Yeah, it's 74
minutes of lunch. Can you imagine that?
What?
And it's a free-for-all, Mr. Golden. You can be anywhere in the building with your lunch. Outside, on the sidewalk, in the gym.
I like that.
It's called Lunch and Learn. So they supposed to come to us and, you know, finish up or get remediation or what have you, and eat their lunch. But, you know, it's a time for them to have for themselves, which I kind of like, but I don't think they, you know, it's not as structured. You know, I'm a structured person.
It's that management piece. You got to really manage that. You got to tell them, this is what I expect. Do it in stages. You know, we're not going to do the whole time. We're going to see what this looks like from one day out the week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So, Mr. Connie, before we leave, how long are you at your desk during that 78 minutes?
The last 15.
The last 15. Okay.
I mean, in my disengaged time, my adult time, as I call it, it's mutual.
Mm-hmm.
Those students need that time to be like, all right, let me internalize everything that I've just learned. What do I got to do next? What's my next move? Let me play around on my phone real quick. Admittedly, I need that too. Like, let me check on these kids, meaning my kids. Let me scroll through the news, because I do use a lot of like current content, things like that in my lessons, and things can change. So let me use that time as well. Let me prepare for the next class. Let me set up my stuff that I need to have set up. So I'm not scrambling and using the 10 minutes at the start of class to get myself prepared. So yeah, 15 minutes out of the 78 that we have. That's kind of all I'm devoting to it.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. So that's good. I think about the last 15 minutes, and that's a good thing for you to like just bring it down and prepare for the next class. But my whole take was for us to just start thinking about, why do we even need that desk, right? And if we look at it from that perspective, maybe we can minimize the time that we're there, because the more time you don't spend at that desk, studies show, not just me, that you are more of an effective teacher because your practices have improved, right? Not just for engagement, but pedagogical, right? This delivery, instruction. Like when you sharpen the knives on all those things, then you have a thorough lesson plan set up. And we know how when we spent like to 2 o'clock in the morning getting a lesson plan together, and we're excited. We're waking up early, right? And we're there, and we're waiting to put on our act so that these kids can get from it what we wanted them to get from it. But if we're behind our desks, you're really not that effective. So I just want us to grow as educators and look at it from a perspective of, am I teaching in my best self, right? Because that's important. And the kids are what's important. And also we have to be kid-centered. So before we leave, I want you guys to just basically give your ending impromptu, like as to what do you plan on changing within the next 90 days in your classroom?
So ladies first. You want to go first?
Yep. Go.
I was trying to come up with something quick while he was talking. In the next 90 days, I want to still work on learning, just getting deeper into understanding pedagogical practices. Like, again, career switching does not always allow for stage. So I still find myself kind of being a step behind a lot of my colleagues who, you know, kind of came through the whole system, you know, with an education backing. So I definitely want to just expand my knowledge on that. That's kind of my main focus for the next 90 days. And then just keeping myself curious is something that I really just want to make sure I don't get toward the end of the year and I'm like, girl, I'm ready for summertime. Ugh. I'll still want to, even in the summer, just maintain my curiosity. So deeper learning and just more curious that I can kind of translate into better for my students.
That's good. I think I want to work on my approach for other colleagues as well. What more could I do to support my colleagues in making that change? And then also being honest with myself about sharpening those knives on all those different areas. You know, working on closing my lesson up on time. You know, we got 50 minutes. Every minute matters. So honing in on my lesson plans and making sure that I plan for every possible scenario that can happen so that I can be as effective as possible. And then really go around, you know, and check on every student, like get a better gauge of what should I be saying at every group, and you know, get a better tracking system on, did I go by and see Johnny? Did I go by and see Susie? Did I say what I needed to say to Billy? Did I get everything that he needed? And just have a good checking system. So I'll probably work on that within the next 90 days.
Okay. Well, I'm all in the world of data. I love the usage of data and how it enhances my instruction. So I'm gonna just look more these last couple months of school at the data, right? I just want to see how next year, when since I'm teaching the same courses plural, how that data-driven approach, right? And I know they really hammer math teachers with the usage of data, but how can we properly do that? So I think that's a whole nother PD that Mr. Start. So
barely add. Smoke comes here, balancing my checkbook, but you want me? Okay.
Mr. Golden can get that one. If he probably already have it. He's so great. He probably already have that together.
Oh, well, you know, we all growing. Yeah.
So Mr. Golden can be a vendor and sign up to do the professional development for us.
Oh, you know, I'm down. You know, I'm also I'm actually doing 7th grade professional development for Georgia teachers now. So it's interesting that you talk about using data, you know, data-driven instruction, because it's purposeful. I mean, what you read in that article didn't come from nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, so it's purposeful, man. And when you get teachers who are engaged and really excited about doing the work, you know, like we all are, I mean, it should come natural. But I feel it. We all growing.
Yeah, it's important. But I am so happy that we had this conversation.
Yes.
I'm so elated and honored to have both of you. And thank you so much, Mr. Golden. I know you don't know myself or Mr. Copy.
Oh, no, it's okay.
I fell into your DM just to say, hey, can you please have this conversation with me?
No problem.
You were highly recommended by Dr. Childs. I love Dr. Childs.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah, and thank you so much for coming on. And maybe later on we can have you on again. And
no problem. Yeah, no problem.
All right. Well, thank you, and thank you, Akani. You're the best. You already know.
All right. See y'all later. Y'all take it easy.
All right. Bye bye. Thank you all.